cold as a razor blade.
For another episode of the Snake Pit, and of course, I could never do it without the man himself, master of the DDT, Ric Flair. I'm just kidding. That's just what he was called in the restaurant there a couple of weeks ago. How's it going, Jake?
Going well, man. Going well.
Good, man. I'm glad to hear it. I think that things are going to get even better today because we're going to be continuing the story of your time in the WWF in 1986, which is just such a cool time in your career. You've got a lot going on. A lot of new things are happening for you at that time in your career. So can't wait to cover that. But before we get into it, I wanted to cover a couple notes from the wrestling world. First of all, Jake, you and I had the grappler Len Denton on last week, and that was a really, really fun episode getting to catch up with him. However, because of all the excitement of having Len on there, we missed something that happened in the world of wrestling, and I didn't want it to go by without talking about it. Unfortunately, a guy that you got to work with a few times and a guy who went on to become a two-time WWF champion, Sid Udy, passed away. And Jake, just wanted to get your thoughts on that situation.
Oh, it's just sad that his family's lost him. I mean, he was such an unbelievable athlete, just a monster. Just really a monster. And, he wasn't the easiest guy in the world to work with, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no bitches about it.
No, I mean, sometimes guys just don't have chemistry, and we've talked about it here on the show before that maybe you and Sid didn't pair up perfectly out there together. But I mean, you take a look at that guy. I mean, I said this with DiBiase. If you told an 8-year-old, "Hey, draw me a picture of what you think a pro wrestler looks like," it'd probably come out looking a lot like Sid.
Yeah, probably, man.
He was just the prototype.
Yeah, he was.
So God bless him. God bless his family during this difficult time. Always sad to see another one go. The other thing that I wanted to bring up to you is that did you hear about this documentary that's going to be coming out on Netflix about your old boss, Vince McMahon?
I've heard about that. I'm waiting to see how much truth's in it before I comment on it. I certainly don't think it's going to be too revealing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it'll be interesting.
I think so. If I understand this whole thing right, and I don't know if I'm wrong, somebody correct me in the comments or whatever, but I think that they started out doing this documentary with Vince where they were like covering his life and career, and it's this kind of happy-go-lucky shtick. And then all of a sudden, this whole thing happened with him, and they're like, okay, we got to pull away from that. So they stopped kind of like the happy, this is your life type thing with Vince, and now they're saying like, and here's what else was going on with him. So it might not all be fluff. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Do you think you'll be watching it?
Oh, yeah. All
right. Well, you and I are going to have to catch up on it after the episodes, and maybe we can cover it here on the show. Who is that? Who is that in the background?
That's Cheryl.
That's not Cheryl. I was expecting to see a shoe get thrown at you from off screen. Post WrestleMania 2, Jake, you worked the house show loop with Scott McGee and SD Jones. And in mid-April, you take on McGee and MSG in front of 15,000 people for television tapings. Matches aired on Primetime Wrestling the following week and were also available on the MSG network. During this early part of your time with the company, Jake, they've got you doing a lot of crawling around the ring, like literally crawling and crawling away from opponents, slithering out of the ring to take a powder, and just generally being a snake. What do you remember about being given this directive?
That wasn't given to me. I just did that on my own.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So what made it occur to you to begin behaving like, because you'd been the Jake the Snake since the early 80s. What made you decide like, okay, now I'm going to start acting like it now that I'm here in New York?
Going to give it a little bit more, see what happened.
It fit well with the presentation up there because it's like they are like that very overt cartoonish product. So like if you're going to be the snake, you're the damn snake out there.
That's it. You got one in the bag, you might as well be one too.
It doesn't last very long. I've noticed, like, yeah, you did this stuff for a while and then kind of pulled away from it. Why do you think you pulled out from that creative choice?
I don't like doing the same thing all the time. You know, I
Okay.
never have liked that. So I did it for a short period of time, but then as my opponents got better, I didn't have time to play around. I had to be more serious.
Well, your opponents are damn sure about to get better. Whenever you're leaving at MSG here, obviously you're going to continue to do like a little bit of enhancement talent work so that they can establish your character. But then you're moving on, and it's going to be one of your more memorable feuds. It's something we talked about here on the show. It's episode 22, The Dragon and the Snake, on
Yeah,
May 1st, '86. You're paired with Ricky Steamboat.
yeah,
Man, what a great rivalry the two of you had. And he's just a couple years away from becoming the NWA World Champion. And even at this point, he's considered one of the best workers in the world.
yeah.
You know, when we talked about him before, you called Steamboat the best baby face you had ever seen. You still feel that way about Ricky?
Oh, yeah.
Can you remind our audience what, in your estimation, made Steamboat such a standout worker and believable babyface?
The art of selling.
Mm.
He can sell better than just about anybody. He's right there with Ricky Morton as far as selling goes.
What do you think it was about him and his sound? Like, what sets guys apart? Is it just like the engagement with the audience, or what is it?
It's just that he had all the pieces, man. And he put them together really well. He looked great. He was always tanned, you know, naturally. But his body was in physical condition, and he could go. He could go as long as you needed him to, and he was just a solid, really solid performer.
When we talked about 1986 before, you had talked about how you come into this locker room, and I mean, you want to talk about a competitive period in wrestling. It's competitive, but now you're on an even bigger stage. I think guys are even more insecure about their spots and their places on the
Oh,
card. And so, like, you're coming into like a pretty tumultuous situation. Not a lot of people are like gravitating toward you right away.
no, I didn't have a lot of friends in that locker room. Everybody was kind of waiting to see whose spot I took.
Whose spot did you take? Do you remember?
I didn't take anybody's spot. They created a new one.
That's it. And like, look, there's only so much TV time, so like something's got to give. And it's like, hey, if you want your TV time, you go out there, they give it to you, get yourself over, and you stay on TV. It's simple as that.
Absolutely.
But so did Steamboat. I know that you had a history with him and became buddies with him, even traveled with him a little bit in Mid Atlantic. Was he a little bit more of a warm welcome for you?
Yeah, he was. Ricky was a class act.
Well, the feud kicked off in a huge way there on on May 1st, '86 in Providence, Rhode Island on Saturday night's main event. It took place in front of over 10,000 fans, and the show earned a 9.3 rating with millions of people watching the program from across the United States. Up to this point in your career, you had been all over the country. You'd worked in front of varying size crowds, but this will be your first time in front of such a large television audience, and it's your
Right,
first appearance on NBC.
right.
For all intents and purposes, this is like the very first time that a mainstream audience is really introduced to your character. So I mean, to say that this is a big show would be a huge understatement. Were you aware how many millions of people are watching this?
Didn't have a clue.
Really?
Did not have a clue.
So there's no like directive from anybody like, hey, the world is watching, you better
No,
go out there and put on a show.
no, no.
Wow.
Anytime NBC was around, you had your gear on tight, man. You were ready to go.
And I mean, I think a lot of fans might hear this and say, like, well, you guys are on TV all the time. It's like not on this level. This
No,
is a
it's a
whole other animal.
different monkey we're playing with now, man. This one, man, has all the bells and whistles, and you're doing mainstream, not just wrestling fans.
And if your time on TV does not go well out there, not only there's a lot at stake, not just from the perspective of how you're viewed by the audience, but maybe more importantly, how you're viewed by the office, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. How you're viewed by Dick Ebersol.
That's the big one too.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a interesting conversation with him before the show started. So,
They lay it on us.
well, I got there early and sat out in the parking lot and smoked me a doobie. And I went inside and I was just kind of, looking around, seeing all this shit, man. Because again, it was my first time to be on this NBC thing, and I could not believe the number of trucks they had there, full of cables and TV equipment and lighting and all this stuff, man. And they just kept bringing more and more in, man, and laying miles and miles of cable. And I was sitting there just chilling out, and Jesse Ventura, well, before Jesse came to me, this dude comes over to me and says, here's your script for tonight. And that pissed me off. I'd never been given a script, ever.
Hell no.
And I started thumbing through it, and they had me doing some corny shit, really hokey bullshit. I can't remember exactly what it was, but man, it was like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not doing any of this crap. So I yelled at the guy and told him to come back. So when he came back, I said, hey, take this and give this to NBC and tell them to shove it up their ass. Any of this bullshit. And I fucking slung it at him. Well, he caught it and he turned and walked away. So an hour or so later is when Jesse comes to me. And I'm talking to Jesse and he's telling me about, yeah, man, the number of people that are going to be seeing you tonight, man, is going to blow your mind, yada, yada, yada. What do you think of the setup? This is first class. This is what the real deal is. And I'm like, yeah, man. I said, except for one thing. I said, they fucking brought me a script, man. I told them to shove that shit up their ass. He said, well, you don't have to follow that. That's just a guideline just to show you how much time you have. You do what you want to do as well. I told him what to do with it. Don't worry, man. He said, well, who did you tell? And I look around and I see this same guy talking to Vince. I said, that fucking joker talking to Vince. And about that time, they started walking towards us, Vince and Dick. I didn't know Dick. I just thought he was a runner.
Oh, no.
And they come over and I'm like, oh, fuck, I just got fired. I'm expecting Vince to say, you're fired. And he says, so I understand you've already met. And I'm like, yes, sir, we have. And I didn't want to apologize, by him. He cut me off. And he says, well, I understand you got everything lined up in your mind already, the way it should be, the best way it should be. And that's what we want. We want the very best. So just off the top of your head, what would you do in a pre-tape? And I paused for about 3 seconds and I said, how about I take a shower with a snake? And that's what they did.
Yes.
They showed me in the shower with the snake.
And that's the story behind the whole moment.
Yeah, the whole moment of, am I going to be fired or what? But that was the beginning of a long-term relationship with Dick Ebersol. We became fairly tight.
Did you really?
Yes, we did.
Whether you call it a TD, a tutty, or take it into the house, whatever you call a touchdown, they matter more at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Are you ready to place your first NFL bet? I mean, looking at the lines here coming up this week, we've got the Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills are at +2.5. You better believe I'm taking that action. Sam Darnold and those Minnesota Vikings showed out. They're at plus 5.5 against the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know, man. I think that they could pull it off. And then here's the one that I really want to go for. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Detroit Lions, and Tampa's at plus 6. Or, hey, just try betting on something simple, like a player to score a touchdown. It's time for you to be the one doing the touchdown dance. Score big at DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code SNAKEPIT. That's code SNAKEPIT for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms. You know, that just kind of goes to show it's like he's a guy who's used to people just kind of backing off and doing what he says, and you didn't. So he's like, all of a sudden, you're pretty interesting.
Yeah. I tweaked him a little bit.
And by the way, out of it came like one of your most iconic promos. We see that footage all the time of you in the shower with the snake, and just like what a cool moment. Did they pop right away when you told them the idea?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Man, it's great stuff. And just to kind of paint the picture for the audience, Vince, as we all know, is not a man who is willing to let go of control of anything. But when Dick Ebersol is around, he's providing Vince with this massive mainstream exposure through NBC. So, Vince would kind of acquiesce to Dick relatively often.
Absolutely, man.
But not the snake. He's not taking any shit off this guy.
Oh, I didn't fucking know any better, man.
Well, rumor has it, I know that you and Dick would become buddies, but rumor has it that he was the one who said that the WWF rings don't look good on TV because they have too much spring in them, which prompted Vince to then reinforce those rings and make them super stiff.
Make them super fucking stiff, man.
So, in theory, Dick Ebersol probably shortened a few careers.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Would you say that once you got to it had already happened? The change was done by the time you arrived in the WWF. Yeah. First time you take a bump in a WWF ring and you feel how stiff it is. What's your first thought?
Oh fuck! Here we go. Yeah, I mean I've been in some stiff rings before, but the WWF rings were just fucking beyond stiff, man. They were just fucking solid. We used to joke that take a bump on the outside, the concrete's softer.
I mean, and then you see guys like, I think Brett and Owen and Mick Foley and Hunter all do this spot off the big blue cage with like the superplex. I'm like, are you out of your damn minds?
Yeah.
Would you say it changed the way that you worked? Like, were you trying to bump less?
No.
No.
I did, no.
Thinking back on it now as a wise older gentleman, would you tell a young Jake like, hey, maybe don't bump on your back quite so often?
Yeah, I'd have probably said a lot of things to a young Jake.
Would he have listened though is the real question.
Oh man, don't pick up the fucking shit,
man. If only we could go back.
Yeah, man.
Did it seem like Vince was just letting Ebersol take the damn wheel on pretty much everything when these shows came around, though?
Oh yeah.
Man, I guess you get those opportunities. You've got to take advantage. Now, your first big introduction here on NBC. I mean, it couldn't have possibly left more of a mark. We talked about it. It's that iconic moment with the DDT to Steamboat on the floor. And again, you guys can go and revisit that talk on episode 22, which we titled The Dragon and the Snake. You mentioned previously that using the DDT on the floor is something that you were adamantly against, but Ricky and others insisted, right?
Absolutely, man. I begged Ricky not to do it. I told him it'd kill him.
Would you say that you were concerned about the potential of like losing?
Yeah, I was worried that I was going to kill him.
Yeah,
And I didn't give it the full thing. Thank God.
you eased up on it.
Yeah, yeah. As much as I could without making it look shit.
Yeah.
But it still got him.
I got a whole new perspective on what happened to Ricky that night. The first time I took a DDT in the ring here earlier this year, I got it from a guy who was training me. He gave me the DDT, and in my mind, I'm like, well, I turned my head and I flatten out, and then I missed the ring by whatever an inch. Nope, your head connects.
Oh yeah, it touches.
Yep, like it's not a thump, but it touches, and I'm like, boy, imagine if that was concrete.
If it was concrete, you're going to feel it.
You damn sure would. Um, I mean, when Ricky's pushing for it, people backstage are pushing for it. Is it like you just nearly stepped in shit with Dick Ebersol and we're a little bit worried about your job? At this point, is it just like, hey, look, I'm just going to go with the flow. Okay, you want me to do it? I'll do it.
I just told Ricky, I said, Ricky, you can't do it, man. And he called me Jackson for some reason. Jackson, I got this. I can get my hands down in front. Don't worry about it. And I said, man, you can't. You don't have time. I promise you, it's going to fuck you up. And he's like, look, he said, I really need you to do this as a favor for me.
Mm.
Because the guy that was the booker at the time, I can't remember his name now.
It wasn't Pat, was it?
No. He came from Charlotte.
From Charlotte.
Where Ricky had been before. He gave Ricky his first big break. So this guy was wanting Ricky to do that to make that impact,
Mm-hmm.
It made an impact, all right. But I thought it killed him. I thought he was dead.
The sound of it?
His body was so limp. He was just like trying to hold on to butter, man. It was just, There was nothing. And I rolled him into the ring. And I remember rolling into the ring afterwards, and they sent people down. And one of the guys they sent down was this guy. And if you watch that tape, you'll see me pointing at Ricky and pointing at him and saying, you fucking killed him. This is on you, motherfucker. This is on you.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. Saved my soul.
I know that Rene Goulet climbed in. Was it George something?
Yes, George. George, bada fucking bing, George. I can't remember.
We may have discussed it on that previous episode. If I don't know that for sure though, but go back and listen to it, folks, for full perspective on this. One of the things that really struck me was after you hit him with the DDT, he's limp. Like you said, you can see it on the footage. He's not helping you up. But you kind of shrugged up on him and got him back into the ring. Like you essentially picked up a grown man dead weight and put him into the ring.
It was not easy.
Incredible strength. I was blown away watching it back.
Hey, man.
You must have had some adrenaline going.
I had a rush going on because I thought he was fucked up, man.
Yeah. I mean, at any point, again, you're brand new to this company. You're kind of starting to tell people off in the ring. You would bumped into Dick Ebersol a little bit in the wrong way back there. Are you concerned? I mean, you drop Ricky Steamboat with this DDT, or you're like, that's got to be it. Like, I have to have lost my job today.
No, I didn't, because I knew that it wasn't on me.
Okay.
They called for it. Ricky called for it. They begged for it. And I told them what would happen. And I was right.
You sure were. Jake, we'll move off of it here in a second, but I do have a little hypothetical for you about this situation. I like doing these with you because I never know what you're going to say. I know you love Steamboat, and you wouldn't hurt him that badly for the world. But that being said, this moment did a lot to help enhance your character over in
Oh,
the WWF.
oh yeah.
If you could go back and have full control over redoing the situation, what would you do to make sure you still got over just as strongly?
I'd DDT him on a chair in the ring.
Ah,
It would probably cut him, but it wouldn't hurt him.
gotcha.
The chair would give.
Which, if I remember right, you had just busted open Terry Taylor earlier this same year with the same move, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. That's a simple solution. He probably would have gotten color the hard way, but that'll get over.
It'd be a whole lot easier on you.
Yeah, I doubt if he would have had his head swell up.
Yeah, you got that right.
Steamboat would take 2 weeks off in order to recover from the accident with DDT, but the feud resumed May 12th, 86 in Stamford, Connecticut. This is really your first match with Steamboat in the WWF, and certainly your first after the concussion. Would you say that you approached the match differently following his injury?
No.
It just worked the same way?
No. We went out there and went for it, man. We did about 20, 25 minutes and just did it.
And that's kind of been the norm for you in your career. It's like these, I would say at least 15-minute matches was really what you were doing, especially at the big shows. And one of the things that struck me here as we are doing research is that a lot of your matches with Steamboat, this one actually was longer, like you said, 15, 20, something like that, 25 minutes. But moving forward, you guys would work like 7, 8 minutes. I imagine it has to do with time restrictions. How much does that change you and your approach when you've got to constrict your matches?
Shit out of you, man.
Yeah.
You don't have time to develop the story properly. You have to rush into it. I'm not a big favor of that, man. I always needed 15 to 25 minutes
Mm-hmm.
to where I felt good about it. Now, maybe that's all in my head. I don't know. But I always felt like I needed that.
Just out of curiosity, Jake, in a 15, 20-minute match, you're the heel, so obviously you're going to be getting heat for the majority of the match. How many hope spots do you give a guy?
Just 3 or 4.
Okay, just a few to bring up
Yeah.
the crowd and then right back down.
Yeah.
In a lot of matches, Steamboat attacked you after the finish and had to be pulled back by the baby faces. And as your rivalry continues into the summer, on June 27th in Boston Garden, in front of over 14,000 fans, you're going to win by countout. But after the match, Steamboat is going to attack you, and you're going to get some color, which is kind of a rarity during this time.
Yeah.
And it's a really different version of Ricky than we had been seeing. He was a very clean-cut baby face. How important to the feud was it for Steamboat to escalate in violence like this?
I think it was important, man, at the time. They were trying to make Ricky look tough, to be, to show more aggressiveness in him. Because he's such a nice guy and such a smooth performer. He doesn't come across like, some animal. But they wanted the animal to come out in him.
Especially with you on the other side, because they've painted this really great picture of you. Like, this is a violent man that Ricky's stepping into the ring with.
Yeah.
If it was up to you, how often would color be allowed in wrestling? Is once a show too much?
I don't think so.
It's just got to be just once, though. Like, more than once, you kind of kill it, right?
Yep.
Well, the feud continues to the big event in Toronto, Ontario. And get this, Jake, it's the biggest crowd, I assume, that you have worked in front of in your whole career. 64,000 fans are there. And reportedly, it grossed over $1 million Canadian dollars. This is about 20,000 more fans than the WWE drew for WrestleMania 2 earlier in 1986. So, pretty incredible crowd. And we've actually got, this will be our only clip this week. We've got your entrance for it and then the finish. Here we go.
Following contest is a snake pit match. No disqualification. Anything and everything goes. One fall will win this contest. In the ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia, weighing 249 pounds, Jake the Snake Roberts. And his opponent.
Flash ahead.
Will he be able to take the same amount of punishment if the Dragon happens to be able to come back on him and be able to retaliate?
I don't think so, lad. I do not think so.
What a tremendous clothesline.
Give him that DDT, baby, and let's get on to the next match.
The Dragon down, but not out of this one by a long shot. Referee looking at the busted open forehead of the Dragon. I don't know what for. He can't stop this match because of excessive bleeding. I know that. Look out. He went for the DDT, but the Dragon caught him before he could apply it. But the Snake definitely still in control of this one. A Dragon unlashes. Oh, look out. Reverse atomic drop. Referee, just get out of the way, get in the corner. He went for the, no, he attempted maybe a DDT, but an inverted backbreaker instead.
You know this Jake the Snake Roberts.
1, 2, 3.
He's just an awesome, awesome man.
Look at this, looking for a nonchalant cover. The Dragon hooks his shoulders from behind. They're down there. It's ready to go there.
How did that happen? How did that happen?
Unbelievable.
All right, Jake. There it was. 64,000 fans, and boy, were they engaged during that match, huh?
Well, they were with it, man.
It was awesome. Now, Jake, do you have any idea why I included your entrance on there?
I don't know.
Well, one of the things that really struck me was that you were wearing a sequined robe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was, man.
What?
I was going to, but I didn't know. Yeah, I found that somewhere. I don't know where the hell I found it.
Why do you think it didn't stick?
Just wasn't me.
I first saw that clip maybe like a year ago, and I was like, what the fuck is he wearing? And then you step up on the rope, and I can see it's like, I was like, oh, it's like a jacket. And then I see it's like down past like your calves, and I was like, oh my God. So do you know if you ever wore that thing again?
I don't remember.
Just broke it out for the one big show.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, I mean, this big crowd, I mean, life has really changed for you in a very short period of time. I mean, Bill Watts, he was drawing big crowds, but this is a whole other level. I know I know that you were feeling like you had made, the big leagues at this point, but how are you adjusting to this new crazy lifestyle that comes with working for the company?
Well, obviously not very well.
Mm.
I was, well, at this time I was doing okay. I wasn't visiting cocaine very often. I had things under control.
Mm.
But a couple of years later, it wouldn't be like this.
It's the combination of increased fame, increased money, increased, fans coming up to you and wanting to be with you, right?
Pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Pressure, man.
And like the road schedule, you and I mentioned it before. This feud with Steamboat is like at one point you worked 90 straight days.
93 days, man.
I want to ask our listeners to think about doing that, traveling and then working for 90 days, even if you're not taking bumps. It's brutal. And then, okay, now include taking bumps in a stiff ass ring. That is tough.
And twice on Saturdays, twice on Sunday. Yeah.
I do not know how you possibly got through it. But you did, and it's a really iconic rivalry. This will be my last note on it. The feud is going to wind down in September. Of course, in the meantime, you guys are doing, plenty of matches on the house show loop. But really, it's all gonna boil down to Saturday night's main event on September 13th. The show is going to draw a 9.4 rating, so slightly better than the main event. So millions and millions of people are getting exposed to Jake the Snake Roberts. And this time it's at the Richfield Coliseum, and you guys are going to do a snake pit match, just like that's actually what that match was, which is essentially just a no DQ match. Yeah. What did you think? I don't think you were doing no DQ matches elsewhere, were you?
No.
So this is it. Were you guys incorporating weapons or just brawling on the outside?
Brawling. Not much, though.
Okay, so you pretty much kept it, like a normal match, right?
Yeah.
Well, something abnormal happened, and we did talk about it before, but you go to terrorize him with the snake, but he's got an answer for it, Jake. It's the Komodo dragon.
Yeah, he had an answer for me, all right.
Wow. One of these fucking things backstage. It's a monitor, right?
Yeah.
What did you think of having that thing involved?
Are you kidding, man? That's a flesh eater, man. That thing eats meat.
I think in some cases those things literally have eaten humans.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But they're like, hey, we'll put a rubber band around its mouth. You'll be fine.
Yeah, right.
Man, absolutely wild. What a cool part of your feud, though. Again, guys, revisit it on episode 22 because that's where we really get into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
But Jake, it's about 4 months that you did this program with Steamboat. It felt like longer. I think it's just because it was such an enjoyable feud, but it felt like it went a long time. But in reality, just 4 months and you guys are out of it. Do you wish it had gone longer? Or did you feel like you guys got everything out of it?
Oh, he could have went on forever, man.
Yeah.
For sure.
What, just due to your chemistry?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had so much more to give, man.
You know, just fantasy booking it. I would have loved to have seen it go to WrestleMania. But again, WrestleMania 3 is where he has that iconic match with Randy Savage. I don't know. I think he could have done the same thing with Jake the Snake on that stage.
Absolutely. Or better.
Probably better. I'm going to say better. It's our show, damn it. Well, that's going to wrap us up this time, guys. Jake, I love looking back to this period in your career. We'll probably do one more episode and talk about your winter of 1986. But man, such a fascinating time for you, huh, pal?
It was good times for sure, man.
We're having good times here, and we'll have more next week.
Take care.
All right, guys, you know what time it is now. I've got to remind you that if you're looking to attract that 25 to 54-year-old male demographic to your product or service, you got to hit advertisewithsnake.com. Jake is back on TV. And by the way, he's booked up for a very busy 2024, going city to city, meeting and talking to loyal fans. And you can get him to put over your stuff to that demographic. If you want some proof it works, just listen to our show, pal. We routinely advertise for the same businesses because they know that what we do here works. Head to advertisewithsnake.com. Get teamed up with the legendary Jake the Snake Roberts. If you want to hook that special someone up with a really unique gift, you got to get over to cameo.com/Jake Snake. You'll get a personal message from the legendary Jake Roberts. Here's a recent review from an anonymous source. Such a thoughtful, kind, and fun message. My brother loved it. Much appreciated. Guys, you get these cameos quickly, and you get a bunch of effort from one of the very best doing it. Jake loves doing them, and he loves the chance to interact with you guys, his fans. And if you're a lifelong fan, you've got to check it out. Again, it's cameo.com/Jake Snake. Order yours today. Check us out on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@SnakePitPod. You get some bite-sized clips from the show, highlights, and exclusive podcasts. Our page is growing, and we want your help to grow more. Please get over there. Get subscribed. Hit that notifications bell. You guys are going to love all the content we have there. Obviously, you get the video version of this podcast, but also just a ton of clips. And like I said, every once in a while, we're dropping some exclusive bonus episodes with somebody to give even more context on the stories that Jake has got to tell here on the show. So again, it's youtube.com/@SnakePitPod. Go and get subscribed. Hey, speaking of subscribing, if you're enjoying the Snake Pit on your podcast app, please subscribe, leave us a 5-star review there. Really fast, easy way to support our show and helps us to continue to deliver this great content to all of you guys every single week. Catch Jake on X at Jake Snake DDT, on Instagram at Jake the Snake DDT, and on Facebook at Real Jake the Snake. You can follow me at Marcus P. D'Angelo on X. And by the way, again, if you want to reach out to me, that's the best spot for it. I'm most active on X. You can send me a DM there. My DMs are open. So if you have a question for Ask Jake Anything, which we've got coming up next, if you have any comments about the show, if you just want to reach out and say hi, that's where you do it. Again, it's Marcus P. D'Angelo on X. I'd love to have any interaction with you guys. Okay, guys, that is going to do it. What a really fun